Hello, and welcome to the Libertarian Show. My name is Aaron, and today I want to do a follow-up video to my last one about Pedro Castillo in Peru. He's running for president in 2021, and it looks like he won the election. It took more than a week to count the votes. Pedro Castillo won the election in Peru by a very slim margin. It was 50.1% to 49.9%, basically. Not exactly a clear mandate from the people, but in democracy, even the slimmest of margins results in a winner-take-all monopolized outcome. So Pedro Castillo is going to be the president of Peru. He is a member of the Peru Libre Party, and they are a Marxist-Leninist party. Their platform calls for nationalization of major industries, most notably the copper mining industry, which is basically Peru's economic crown jewel. All right, it's their pride and joy. The Free Peru Party, or Peru Libre Party, also calls for lots of red tape, protectionist trade policies, tariffs, sky-high tax rates, price controls, and all the other leftist anti-market policies that have caused so much damage in Latin America. The Peru Libre Party is run by Vladimir Cerrón, and the only reason he wasn't on the ticket for this election is because he was disqualified from running for president. But he's the leader of the party. He handpicked Pedro Castillo to run in his place. Castillo is basically taking his marching orders from Vladimir Cerrón. The Peru Libre Party has openly expressed support for Venezuela's and Cuba's socialist governments and their socialist economic policies. And you know how Venezuela and Cuba's economies are. They're in a dismal state. The Peru Libre Party also has praised Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez by name. You can certainly expect that party to push those kinds of policies domestically. Pedro Castillo himself has said that he will either nationalize the country's mining industry or that he will tax the ever-loving hell out of it. Lose-lose there, either way. Upon declaring victory, here's a great quote I got. Upon declaring victory, Pedro Castillo said, quote, "A new time has begun. No more poor in a rich country." And it's true that Peru has poor people. What country doesn't? Maybe Monaco. But Peru has been following a pro-capitalism policy since around 1990. They've more or less been respecting private property rights and the free market. Now, ever since they adopted that policy in the early 90s, their poverty rates have been falling dramatically, and their per capita income has been rising dramatically. Let me show you some graphs. I'm going to get into a bit more detail here. Okay. Here is a graph showing Peru's income and poverty. See that line right there around 1990? First, actually, take a look back at 1950 to 1990. You can see how the per capita income was kind of hovering between 4 and 8K for about 40 years. Then in 1990, their pro-market policies got adopted, and then after a few years of that, their income started going up, and it went up a lot. And just before COVID-19 hit, you see that sharp drop at the very edge of the graph. That's the COVID-19 shutdown, okay? So right before the COVID-19 hit, their per capita income was up to 14K. That's more than twice, or about twice what it was before they implemented pro-market policies. Next, let me show you this. Poverty rate. The head count ratio at $5.50 or less a day, adjusted for inflation and PPP, percent of population. So back in even the late 90s, they were still at 55% of poverty, below $5.50 a day. But then by the 2000s, it started falling. And by 2018, it was down to 20% of the people. That's like a 50% reduction in poverty. From 55% to 20%, that's more than a 50% reduction in poverty. That's amazing. They cut it in half. More than half. Here's one. Inequality. Even inequality went down. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, capitalism makes inequality, man." No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. You have a few more rich people get more obscenely rich, but there's a lot less poor people, and it more than makes up for it. The Gini index plummeted from the 90s at 54 down to 42. So their inequality has gone down. Here's one more I want to show you. Undernourishment as a percentage of the population. In the early 90s, they were at almost 35% undernourishment. And then by the time they got to 2014 to the 2010s, that undernourishment got cut down by 2/3. It went from just over 30 to under 10. That's a huge reduction in undernourishment, man. And that's what the pro-market, private property policies gave to the people, all right? Now, capitalism and property rights and market reforms have already accomplished massive reductions in poverty and inequality in Peru. And then you got Pedro Castillo going, well, no more are we going to have poor people. It's like you can't just make everyone not poor overnight, okay? It takes time. You go in steps. You go in phases. And that's what the capitalism has already been doing, okay? So after the COVID pandemic is over and, the economy gets out of lockdown and things start to go back to normal, with Castillo and Peru Libre in charge, do you think that their policies of high taxes and nationalizations and protectionism and tariffs, do you think that's going to eclipse the reductions in poverty and the improvement in quality of life that I just showed you on those graphs? Do you think they're going to be able to outpace those rates, those measures of progress in that amount of time? No, I don't think so. No one's ever been able to do that with nationalization and high taxes and protectionism and tariffs and red tape and price controls. It's never happened. It's all, if anything, it's going to stagnate, or you might even see the opposite. You might even see it just go down the shithole like Venezuela did and Cuba did years before. Now, for a caveat. This election was very close, razor thin. It's quite possible that Pedro Castillo and the Peru Libre Party will face resistance in the government from other politicians when they try to implement their socialist policies. So maybe Castillo won't succeed in implementing a Venezuela-style economy onto the country. So all my predictions of doom, they might not come to pass, but if it doesn't come to pass, it's going to be in spite of Castillo. It's going to be because of resistance to his policies. Okay, but to the extent that Pedro Castillo does succeed in implementing socialist policies, we can expect to see those policies do their share of economic damage, and if Castillo succeeds in implementing the entire Peru Libre party platform, then we can expect to see their policies utterly wreck Peru. They're going to end up making like a refugee crisis and having starvation, just like Venezuela did. One of the first items on Castillo's agenda is to rewrite the Peruvian constitution, which is exactly what Hugo Chavez did after he became president of Venezuela. And that didn't turn out too well for Venezuela. Whatever way that Castillo succeeds in rewriting the Peruvian constitution is not going to go well for the people of Peru. So let's hope that the government stops him from doing what he wants to do. Let's hope Peru gets lucky. Thanks for watching. Peace out.